start off a three-part series about composting and compost bins and compost heaps. Now the first one I'm going to show you is a compost bin, which is really good for small homes that don't take up a lot of space. You're not really getting a lot of green waste as far as the garden goes, but you're probably getting a lot of kitchen waste. You'd be surprised how much vegetable waste you actually build up in a week, and they're really good for things like that. Now you can see it behind me. Now compost heaps and compost bins have got a lot of different myths and wives' tales about them and what have you. As far as I'm concerned, you don't need to add lime to break down stuff in a compost bin. You don't always need heat, and you don't always have to add water. Now I'm just going to talk about bins today because there's two different sides of the coin when it comes to heaps and bins. But bins, generally I get people just to use compost bins for their kitchen waste. Just stuff out of the kitchen, nothing out of the garden. They're small, they're easy, they don't have to have a lot of heat, so just put them where it's easy for you to put the compost into the garden. Don't worry about it being in the heat or being in too much shade. Just put it wherever is easy for you. Don't worry about adding water. The moisture of all the vegetables that you put on there will soon break down. We'll take it into consideration and break down. The only thing I do not like to mention to people with compost bins is that they use, it's like any kind of composting, you've got to do it in layers. So it's like making a lasagna, so don't just pile 1 foot full of kitchen scraps and nothing else. Try and chuck in some newspaper or some ash, if you've got a fireplace, the old wood ash out of the fireplace, and old ripped up bits of cardboard, all that kind of stuff. Anything that's going to break down easy, but try and do it in layers. Alright, and that's easier for the worms and the insects that get into the bin to actually chew through and turn it into compost. If you've got great big layers of grass cuttings or something like that in a pile, it's just too hard for them to do it. Now today, you can see here, now I'll go to the other side. Now this is the garden bed that I've been showing you in the last couple of videos that I've been working on. Now all I'm going to do today, this is the easiest thing in the world to do. All I've done, now it's quite windy here, so I've just put a stake in, and I'll show you what that's for in a second. And I've just got an old bit of painted masonite. Now masonite obviously will get, once it gets wet, it'll soak through and break down. I'm only using this temporarily for this bin because I'm actually doing some work in the bathroom and I'm getting a whole heap of old vinyl, which I've used in another compost heap that I'll show you. But I'm going to use a bit of that too for the bottom of this. The main thing I think with compost bins, if you're using a lot of garden waste, kitchen waste and scraps and things like that, don't add meat, chicken bones, fat, all that kind of stuff. It just attracts mice, so leave them out. And try and have it on a stable base, something nice and firm, so you do keep things like that out too. Also, dairy products, things like that, I'm not really keen on putting dairy on there. I like to keep it just a kind of vegetable matter as well. Biscuits, things like that tend to attract ants, so just chuck them anywhere for the birds. The birds will eat them, so throw them somewhere else. Just keep it for your vegetable scraps. Over time, it'll break down. It's good to have two, so you can work on one, and then you'll have the other one next to it. So by the time you filled one, that's breaking down, and by the time you filled the other one, the first one's going to be pretty much ready for you to use. So you can just alternate between the two. Now, putting it somewhere in the garden, pick a site. This is good, it's right in front of this vegetable garden. So what I'm going to do is from here, all I'll have to do is, once it's full, I've got another one's going to be just to here. Once it's full, take it off and I'll shovel it straight into that garden bed. Easy, you don't even have to wheelbarrow it anywhere. So, I've got this in. I've got a base, so the base just keeps the grass from growing up through it as well, because grass, especially if you've got a runner like buffalo or something like that, it'll run up through there. All I'm going to do, now this compost bin you can just get at most garden supplies and hardware stores and things like that. There's heaps of bins, I'm sure you've all seen them. You get little ones that you can rotate, you can get big black ones, all kinds of stuff. This one's nice and easy. The lid, that comes off. Now all I'm going to do, now as I said it's quite windy here, so I don't want it to blow over, so take that into consideration. So I'm using that spike to hold it there so it doesn't go anywhere. Once it's got stuff in it, it won't blow anywhere anyway. Alright, that's there. Put the lid on, and all I use is a brick. Easy. And then just put your kitchen waste in there, build it up. Once it's full, like I said, alternate to the other one. Simple. Now that's just a compost bin. So compost bins like this one are pretty cheap, pretty easy to use, and everyone generates a lot of vegetable scraps in their kitchen from every week. If you keep a record, if you keep a bin and just put the stuff from a week that you've been throwing out normally, you'll be amazed. If you've got, I have to admit, most of my scraps go to the livestock. My vegetable scrap bins are always pretty empty because I always give it to chickens or sheep, or they eat everything like that, which is good for them. So mine's a bit anaerobic at the moment, but that's okay. But they're really easy. So next time you're in a hardware store, just have a look at the compost bins and just pick somewhere in the garden where you can put it. Throw in your scraps, get 2 if you can, so you can alternate between the 2. When it's composted down, dig it into the garden. Beautiful, you'll be laughing. The next 2 videos, the next one I'm doing a compost heap, which I've just built. So I'll show you that one as opposed to compost bins. And then I'm going to show you a friend's compost heap that he just got built, and it's just awesome. I just want you to see it, so I'll show you that video too. So there's your compost bin. Easy. Any questions, just give me a yell. Alright, I'll see you soon for the other 2 videos.